Welcome to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I'm your host, Darrell Scott, and together we will dive into the lives and careers of the jazz legends who have left a rhythmic imprint on the world. Be prepared to reminisce on the highs and the lows of their musical journey and the trials that sculpted their timeless musical gems. We'll preserve the legacy of these extraordinary maestros and find inspiration in the melodies of their lives. Subscribe now and never miss a beat. Now, let's get to the show. Greetings. Welcome. This is our very first live stream. I'm Darrell Scott. You're listening to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. That lovely voice that you heard, I'm not gonna embarrass myself right now, is the lovely and talented Maria Jacobs. This is her second time here. There's a lot of new stuff to talk about. So first of all, let's just get started. Maria, welcome back for the second appearance on the Jazz Flyte Podcast. What is happening right now in your musical career?
Oh, wow. So much. I don't know where to begin. Well, I mean, I can start with some upcoming performances if you like.
Go ahead.
So on Friday, May 17th, which is this week Friday, I will be at Blue Jazz at 47 East Market Street with Rock Wehrman and Tim Lakin and Mark Gonder. And that'll be a 3-hour performance. And then on June 9th, I'm back at the Bop Stop Sunday night, 7 p.m. And that'll be Rock Wehrman and Brian Thomas and Mark Gonder. And then I'll be at the Tree Lawn Social Club. That's at, the Bop Stop is 2920 Detroit Road in Cleveland. And the Tree Lawn Social Club, July 19th. That's 15335 Waterloo Road. Waterloo Road, yeah, in Cleveland. And that'll be with Rock Wehrman and Brian Thomas. So couple upcoming things. Working on another album, working on my Christian album. And I really have some wonderful, wonderful people performing with me in that record. I've got Reggie Bowens and Jamie Haddad. Matt Nelson played with Jars of Clay. He's a cellist. He's going to be sharing his talents with me. And he does the music for The Chosen. He and Dan Hazeltine. So that's great. Got Jack Shantz on that record as well. Dear friend of mine, Molly Pauken, very sought after bass player in Columbus, based in Columbus. And hoping to have that done this year, maybe around the third quarter of 2024. And working on a kind of a jazz urban record with a good friend of mine. His name is Tommy Coster. Tommy co-wrote and co-produced The Real Slim Shady with Eminem. And I've known him over 20 years. So we're collaborating now. He's the producer for kind of a jazz urban record that I've written. So kind of excited, very steeped heavily in some musical projects right now.
You seem to be tremendously busy. I will remind you, somewhere over there, I have a Tommy Coster. I think I have 2 CDs by him when he.
Well, you have his dad. That's his dad, Tom Coster.
It is?
Yeah, Tom Coster is Tommy's dad. He played for Santana for a very long time.
Wow.
Beautiful keyboard music.
It's amazing. I say this a lot, and it's a full circle kind of thing. It's that, I don't know if you remember the game 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, where you start with Kevin Bacon, you get somewhere. Every now and then I feel that way because, like, I'm talking to you, who knows Tommy Coster, who knows this person, who knows that person. So, as I say, the tentacles have a very far reach.
Yeah.
How soon before the Christian album will be released, if you might?
Yeah, I'm hoping that'll be this year. I'm really hoping that'll be this year. My goal is to have the record released at the same time as the book. I have an opportunity right now to resubmit to a publisher, a big Catholic publisher, and I'm working with a wonderful literary agent who is he's the literary agent for some New York Times bestselling authors, and he's been very generous with his expertise in the publishing world. You know, when I set out to write this book, I had no idea what I was getting into. It was a memoir, and now it's more focused around my Christian testimony. I use my life to kind of help people come to terms and learn to successfully live with bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed when I was in my early 20s, and I've been in remission for years. I have a very, very fulfilling life, musically and spiritually and personally. And I think because of that walk that was so difficult, I have a closer walk with Christ today. And so it's very hard to regret having those difficulties when they bring you closer to God. So so that's what my book's about. It's a Christian testimony about, kind of a little bit of a conversion story, a little bit of a maybe mental health advocacy and more. That's kinda how I look at it. So it's taken many different forms. The more I get advised by this literary agent, the more reality comes in. Am I writing a memoir, or am I writing something that's very universal that everyone
Hmm.
will be able to grab something from? And there is a tremendous difference, and I didn't know that starting out. So so they say that writing is rewriting, and they are right. I mean, I've already done hundreds of rewrites since I finished the book in 2019. I swear it's been hundreds of edits
Wow.
and rewrites and condensing 2 chapters, taking 1 chapter and turning it into 2. I mean, I talk about all aspects of my life. I don't want it to read like a biography, but I think it kinda does. So I will keep you posted and stay tuned as to where it ends up.
Oh yes, most definitely, definitely keep us posted. Let's talk about
Mhm.
this. I'll call it a little mini tour of what you're doing. These
Yeah.
3 events. Now I
Mhm.
understand that you're in the studio and you're doing that, but I would think performing live has a different kind of, I'll say, emotion that goes with it, because it's not like you can go, okay, I'm done. Let's do take two because I want a different feeling. This is
Right.
live and in the
Yeah.
moment. Is that
Nothing
an
like it.
adjustment? And do you really like that?
I love it. I mean, I've been blessed throughout my, 30 years as a professional jazz vocalist. I mean, I sing other material too, obviously, but I'm a predominantly a jazz singer. And, the on the job training that you get to become kind of an aficionado as a jazz vocalist is it's like nothing else. I mean, I cut my teeth sitting in more than performing and getting paid for jazz gigs. I got paid for pop gigs and wedding gigs and sang a lot of pop music coming up. But, you didn't get paid to play jazz when you first started out. You were a newbie,
Hmm.
you needed to
Right.
listen, you needed to sit in, and there were so many places back in the early '90s playing jazz and cabaret, like, on every corner. I'd walk into a gig where I knew the singer. Leslie Lewis is a wonderful jazz singer. She lives in Paris now, but when she was here, we became friends, and when I walked into the club, she would just hand me the mic, sit down, have some wine, and listen to me sing. And she always had wonderful musicians, and that's the way it was. I used to sit in with Hank Marr back when, Sammy's in the Flats was happening, when
Mm.
it was a real happening joint, right?
Yep.
And,
Hmm.
um, just worked with some tremendous musicians a lot. Mark Gonder, who's playing for me on 2 gigs coming up, he'll be at Blue Jazz and he'll be at the Bop Stop. Man, Mark and I go back over 30 years to when I first started singing out in Cleveland. So it's just it's tremendous to have relationships with these musicians. Rock Wehrman and I, we've been working together for years, you know, and these are guys that don't need the gig. I mean, they're at a place in their life where they don't have to take every gig. So
Hmm.
if I call them for a performance and they're available and willing, I just, I count my blessings every day. But with them, the thing is they're at such a high level musically that they are wonderful. They present a beautiful canvas for me to paint with vocally, and they follow me. They can tell where I'm going at the ends of tunes. They don't just read the ink, they put in input as to how maybe an original song of mine needs to go. I write these charts to put in front of them, and they still help me find my way around, you know?
Hmm.
So, that's alright. I have no problem saying that. I have enough humility to let you know that, what Carmen McRae said on the record that she did a tribute to Monk, um,
Hmm.
Thelonious Monk. It was a brilliant record, and I read the liner notes 30 years ago, and in it and Carmen was a tremendous piano player. She was a marvelous musician, and in the liner notes, she said, "I wanna thank all my musicians. Without you, I would have been lost." And for an exquisite musician like Carmen to say that, it's true. And as a singer, you can't get up there like I'm a diva and you play for me. I mean, it's a shared communication when you're playing jazz. And I don't care how great a musician a singer is, your musicians are always going to be better than you. And that's what you want. You want to be brought up to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you want them to be enjoying a performance with you. I mean, I want musicians who really love to back a singer. And it's a whole nother ballgame backing a singer than playing solo piano or playing in a band where there is no singer and you're, presenting these tunes as instrumentalists only. Backing a singer, you have to have the timeless art of comping. You know what I mean? You can't
Mm-hmm.
have a piano player that's all over the place while you're singing the melody. That's just not a tremendous situation and not one that I'm in. Rock Wehrman is a beautiful player. He really knows how to back a singer, and he knows how to play solo. His solos are exquisite. Every review I have on my Back at the Bop Stop, my 9th album, and Bootlegged at the Bop Stop, my 8th album, every reviewer had something to say about my musicians, especially Rock and his solos. So I'm just thrilled when people other than me recognize how lucky I am as a singer to get to come back to Cleveland from Los Angeles and work with world-class players. I worked with world-class players out there, and I came home and I worked with world-class players here, many of whom I've known over 30 years. So yeah, it's to kind of go back to what your original question was. I kind of digressed a little. The live experience will always be so electrifying because you do things on stage that are gone forever. Unless you're recording that live
Right.
performance and
Yeah.
a live album out of it, which I did. My last 2 albums were live albums. That's wonderful. But I listen back to those records and I try to duplicate what I did on some of those tracks. What you do in the moment, it's done and it's gone. Like, I'll never repeat. I took a nice scat solo that I was very pleased with on "You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To." I've tried to replicate it live on the gig. There's something about the energy and the electricity of doing it for the very first time that can never be recaptured, right? It happens in the studio a little bit too. I might take one take that I really, really like and say, "Well, let's go back for something else," and never kind of do it the exact same way the second
Mm-hmm.
or the third time. But the beautiful thing in the studio is you can take one from here, and then you can take one from this take.
Right.
You could do all those things, but I have to tell you, in the studio, I'm still a little bit of a live singer. I prefer to sing the tune 3, 4 times in a row and take the best take, and ideally, it's usually the very last take. It's like,
Okay.
warming up, getting used to what the musicians have done. Sometimes we're playing live in the studio. If we're doing a straight ahead jazz album with, jazz standards, sure, we roll tape and we take a couple takes together instead of doing overdubs. But if you're doing something with a little pop sensibility of some kind, yeah, invariably you're gonna go back and overdub yourself, and maybe take the best take out of 3 or 4. That's my favorite way to record. I don't like pull I've heard of singers who do like 30, 40 takes and they'll like literally draw, "I'll take this line from take number 50, I'll take this line from take number 12." I mean, that I don't say that's not a valid way to work. I heard that Barbara Streisand liked to work that way. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's just not something I've been made privy to by a producer just yet. I've always kind of self-produced all of my albums until I started working with Pete Tokar here in town, and he wears the producer's hat when he's doing my stuff, and I'm just grateful because he's been right about everything. Every
Mm-hmm.
suggestion he makes is always wonderful, but I've never had a producer say, "Okay, do it again. Do it again. Do it again," 50 times. Pete will have me
Okay.
take a second or third take, but I mean, I've just never been asked to do it, and I've just heard, I've heard recording stories where David Foster had Celine Dion, do all by myself, like, 40, 50 times before.
And
That was a gut buster of a tune to sing. So, my hat is off to singers who they have the stamina in the studio to do things that many times in a row. I've never had to. I don't know if I could. I've never had to.
all right, you spent a lot of time here talking about your musicians and you. Let's
Yeah.
hear exactly what you sound like on My God Is Here. You're
Mm.
listening to a live Jazz Flight podcast.
My God is here, He wipes away my tears, and every burden leaves. tomorrow near my God to be.
Thank you. Thank you for playing that
Marie,
one.
not a problem. We got one more to play, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. We're going to surprise you.
Oh,
Um, let me ask you this. There are occasions when you're performing, you have a rather huge catalog to choose from.
mm.
So if I'm going to see you, oh wait, I'm going to see you on the 9th at the Bob Stop. How do you
Wonderful.
choose? How do you choose the songs you're going to perform?
Yeah, that is a great question. First, I over prepare. I bring far more songs than I'm gonna need, you know what I mean? And then, what I typically do is I just take all the material that I have performed in my last gig, and then I kinda spread those all out on the floor, and I kinda decide, well, this song should follow this song, and this song should follow that song, and I try to have a good handful of original compositions that I like to mix in with the Great American Songbook, and, it's I don't fully prepare the material until, like, a week before the gig,
Hmm.
because I really wanna I really want my heart to be in this place where this is where I am at the moment. This is how I wanna present myself. This is how I wanna present my heart. So, I don't really pull songs for the gigs, a month in advance. I kinda wait till it gets closer, and, that's a really good question. I write a lot, and I haven't recorded every single thing that I've written. So, my goal is to kinda test and try these tunes and see how they go over on the audience, some of my new tunes that I've not recorded yet. And, I try to select some songs that I can play the piano on. I'm gonna do my rendition, my arrangement, and my reharmonization of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and Blue Moon at these upcoming performances where I can sit at the piano and accompany for myself. Yeah, so I guess to answer your question the long way, I try to have a really good mix between songs from the Great American Songbook that a lot of people will recognize and, arrangements and reharmonizations of songs that people will recognize, and then some of my original compositions. And then there's some other cover tunes. There's a Gregory Porter tune I love to do called "Take Me to the Alley." It's just an exquisite composition. So, yeah, does that answer your question? Kind of a long answer.
Yeah, but it makes me think of I'm not coming by your place while you're getting ready for a show because I'm willing to bet there are papers all over the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Which
just I just took a picture of what it was like on the floor of my apartment when I was preparing for this gig. I needed to upload them into a Google Drive folder. I try to upload the recordings of me playing and singing with the charts that go with the recording for the guys, especially musicians who've not been with me before or in a long time, so they can look at the chart and they can hear the recording, and the chart mirrors the recording, so they have a chance to look things over before we kind of spot check an hour before the gig starts. So, I try really hard to provide them with what they need. Well, I teach my singers at Kent State to be very definitive and very assertive, not difficult, but assertive, because I believe that your players really appreciate a singer who knows exactly what they want. If you kind of get up there and you hem and haw and you're not really sure, you don't really, it's not rude to lead and to tell them how to end the tune and to tell them what kind of introduction that you want. Those things aren't rude. Those things are professional. So, I train, I don't just train singers, I train musicians whose instrument is their voice and, musicians who are singers. Um, there's that old adage that musicians are the instrumentalists and the singers are the singers. Singers are supposed to be musicians too, and your instrumentalists really appreciate it when they are. So, I try to give them what they need to have fun on the gig. If they have to kind of pull the singer along at every turn, they're not having fun on the gig, they're not gonna return. So, yeah, I just make it a point. Anything that's not a standard that they know, uh, I put it in the Google Drive folder with the recording and with the sheet music that I've created, and then when they get to the gig, there's no surprises.
So, do your musicians, the ones that you know, the two that are going to perform with you, are
Yes.
they well versed in every song that you did, or is there rehearsal time?
There is a little rehearsal time for the stuff that's not a traditional Great American Songbook standard.
Hmm.
So we'll spot check some different tunes. Mark hasn't played with me for a minute, and Tim Lakin, at Blue Jazz, he's never worked with me and not on this material before.
Hmm.
I'm not inundating them with a whole lot of original material, like 2 or 3 original tune, maybe 1 or 2 per set, so that the rehearsal I've had the rehearsal before Back at the Bop Stop was recorded. That was kinda grueling because there was a lot of material that they had not played before, and
Hmm.
it was original, and, uh, and I gotta tell you, they all step up, and they don't complain, and they help me find my way around the chart. He's like, "No, I think you meant this. Well, the recording did this, but the chart looks like this. Which way do you wanna go?" They want a definitive answer from a singer, so I had an hour-long rehearsal before the gig began for Back at the Bop Stop for my 9th album,
Wow.
and they just were they were warriors and troopers throughout the whole thing, and when it came time to do it for the audience, everything went beautifully.
All right. Once again, I can't wait till June to see you at the Bop Stop.
Thank you.
However, right now, it's the song that you and I both love. This is Maria Jacobs with "You'd Be So Nice to Come Home To."
Yay.
You'd be so nice. You'd be paradise to come home to and love.
All
Yeah,
right.
you
Now
hear
these
that
performance.
they're all wonderful, but if you really hear how Rock Wehrman is comping behind me, I mean, he just gives me a canvas to paint with any style paintbrush that I want. And that was a solo on that song that, I'm very I'm pleased with how that came out. You're not always pleased with everything that comes out in a live performance, but that one, some things are just magical. They're like lightning in a bottle, and I really felt that that solo was uh, was well crafted and unrehearsed, and I can do those things with the musicians that I'm blessed with, and you cannot do that with every. You cannot do all those things with every musician out there.
So on in June, we will make it to Blue Jazz.
Yeah,
But when Portia and I are sitting out in the audience,
yeah,
listening to you sing at the
yeah.
Bop Stop,
Mhm.
what what is the energy I'm going to get? And I will do my best not to make you laugh, but that's always a goal of mine. At least to put a smile on your face. But
Thank
what am I gonna? I am the person who goes to a concert and I sit in the back row
Yeah,
because I just want to listen to the music. I don't want to be
beautiful.
necessarily disturbed. I don't want
Yeah,
the phone is turned off.
thank
What
you.
can I expect from you as I'm sitting there enjoying this?
I mean, the goal of every artist should be to make somebody feel something. I mean, you're going to hear some vocal styling, some improvisation, some scat singing, and hopefully that will be moving. But,
Hmm.
there will also be tunes where there is no flashy runs or inflections. Some of it will be original material. Some of it will be some great American songbook standards that I have not performed before, but that I have always loved. So, my goal, it's wonderful to make people listen. It is wonderful. But it is more wonderful to make them to feel something. I
I
always
like
tell my
that.
students at Kent State is an audience knows when you're faking it. If you're faking it through like there's that old misnomer that, well, it's jazz, you can make those different. I mean, jazz is knowing the tune so well that the ad libs and the improvisation that you take also makes people hear the melody going through the tune, and it
Hmm.
makes people feel something. So if you don't quite know the tune and you're kind of yeah,
Making it.
wiggling around, yeah, faking it, right. I mean,
Yeah.
even if the audience doesn't know the song, they know when they stop feeling something, their foot stops tapping, or they stop swaying, or they just stop feeling, you know. So I mean, the goal with jazz singing, improvisation does not mean you're faking it. If it's new and it's original and it's not to be recaptured in the future completely like it does that night, that is not faking it. Improvisation is not faking it. The tunes so well. You hear the changes, whether you can play them on the piano or not. I mean, I do. I play them on the piano, but you don't have to play them on the piano to really hear where those changes are going when your band is playing. So, I mean, I don't know how to put that any plainer. Is you really want your audience to feel something as well as listen to something, you know?
I I think what I've always thought of when I go to see a show,
Yeah.
I gotta it's a totally different performance, obviously, than listening to showing my age, the album or the CD.
Mhm.
Let's not talk about streaming. But it is sometimes you want to hear the difference, but you do want to hear the person on key, but it's not necessarily on key. Sometimes it's how do you recover, because that might take you to a different place.
That is a beautiful comment, and thank you for saying that because that is exactly what I tell my students. It is all about the recovery. When I say you don't get up there to fake it, I don't mean everything goes as rehearsed. So thank you
Right.
for bringing that up. It's in jazz music, when you are communicating with 3 or 4 other players, you're doing things that are unrehearsed. There is a large likeliness that it's not gonna go as planned, and you really have to think and recover on your feet. I mean, some of the greatest, most historical solos known to recording all started out as mistakes. I mean, scat singing alone, the history of scat singing goes like this. The music fell off of Louis Armstrong's stand and he couldn't read the words, so we began to sing nonsense syllables, and thus scat singing was born. And then Ella Fitzgerald took it to a whole another level, and everybody wants to mimic those mistakes. You know what I mean? I mean, embrace your mistakes because they can take you somewhere that you didn't know you wanted to go. And there were times I was thinking, "Oh my God, I missed that. Oh, that was terrible. Oh, I wish I could do that again." And then I go back and listen to the recording and I'm thinking, "Oh, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't
Wasn't so
planned."
bad after all. Right. Yes.
Right. You got to be willing to one, not stop cold because it didn't go as expected. Staying in there and landing on your feet, that is what one of the biggest things that jazz music is all about, in my opinion. It's not about the fall, it's about the recovery.
Yeah.
And, recoveries can be something that people want to emulate. It's documented throughout history in Western music, in American music.
All right, we're gonna get ready to wrap this up. I have this to say. I can't wait to see you.
Thanks.
I'm of the attitude of I don't necessarily like to see my friends if I'm perform and I don't perform. When I'm speaking,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to see my friends.
Yeah.
So I might come up before, say hello, give you a big hug, and
Thank you.
you'd be like, "Where'd Daryl go? I don't know." And at
Yeah.
the end of the show, I can come up and go, "This is what I like. This is great. You were wonderful. Blah blah blah."
Yeah.
So I won't be there this weekend, but
Okay.
June 9th
Yeah.
at the Bop Stop, I will be there. I'm pretty sure the woman who produces the show will be there, and
Good.
and we and we will have many things to say, and it'll be a good chance for us to. I love this is StreamYard. I love Zoom,
Yeah.
but the actual being able to hear you and then being able to walk up to you and just comment, yay, high five.
Yeah.
I won't high five you. I'll do that. But if there's people there that really care about you, and all of a sudden it's like, why is that man hugging Maria like that? Just explain to him who I am,
This is
and we'll
yeah,
be fine.
this is my dear
Okay?
friend.
It's
Well, I appreciate
it's.
you coming out. If you could bring 100 people with you, that would be even greater.
I don't know if I can bring 100.
Yeah,
I
it's a
think
joke.
there'll be. I'm not sure how many, but
Yeah,
obviously this is live.
yeah,
There are comments in here. It'll play every now and then so people can
great.
understand it and hear it. We will put the flyer back out there so that everybody can hear it. And
Thank
then
you.
when we walk in, I'm just gonna sit down and enjoy music. If you see me sitting with my eyes closed, I'm not asleep.
I'm glad to hear that.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I just
I had
want
to
to
deal
also,
with that.
I don't mind
It's a
that.
pretty predominant,
Because your eyes will be closed.
predominantly.
Well, your eyes will be closed, but your foot will be tapping.
I'm just gonna sit back and relax. Exactly. And
Yeah,
if you can see my feet while sitting in the chair, more power to you.
I do.
Maria, thanks. Whatever information you want to get out to people, let us know. We will do what we can. And if
Can I just
nothing
tell them
else,
I just want to tell everybody my website, if you don't mind.
yes, go right ahead.
Okay. So the website is mariajacobs.com, where you will find a lot of information about my music and especially my book. Blue Jazz this Friday, May 17th, Bop Stop June 9th, and Treelon Social Club July 19th.
I'll make one of the three. I don't know. Maybe I'll make two of the three. That means I'm getting greedy, but who knows? I might do that.
Oh,
Maria,
it'd be great. Thank you,
thanks
Darrell.
again. If nothing else, like I said, we'll see you on June the 9th. And I don't promise, I'll behave. Maria,
Thank
take care
so
and
much.
thank you very much. Welcome. Thank you for being the first live.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to the Jazz Flyte Podcast. I hope you enjoy these stories and soulful melodies that grew through the doors of time. If you want to stay connected with the latest updates and episodes, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Until next time, I'm Darrell Scott.